Yeah, welcome to the second part of the video of data structure series. So in this today's video we are going to talk about what is linked list, and we are going to talk about like we will understand what is linked list first, then we will try to create a linked list, and we will try to uh, only implement the first like very basic method like insertion. Okay, so that to understand about linked list. Okay, so yeah, as we discussed in the last video about the objects, right? So now we know we can create a object, we can define a structure. Okay, and we can use that structure to create multiple instances of it. Okay, yes, we will try to remember that, we will try to use it. So let's about linked list. So linked list is nothing. Linked list, so you know what's first is like linked list and array. Okay, so array is a contiguous set of memory allocation. So when we say like contiguous set, it means a continuous memory will be allocated in the system. So let's say when we initialize an array, you can only like if you have inserted 10 elements in an array, you have to remove the central element. If you know how in JavaScript we can't actually just remove the element, right? So we have to create a new array and just remove the central element basically, or like there are some inbuilt methods, but that's how you will do it, right? Because it's a continuous memory, so there's no way directly you can do it, right? So there's like costliest operations. So and also the important part is a contiguous set of memory allocation. Now linked list, here comes the linked list handy basically. So what linked list will do is for you basically is linked list will give you individual nodes, like they can be anywhere, and you will connect those nodes basically through references basically. Okay, so that's very more important, and those like nodes basically. So here we in linked list is a set of nodes basically. So here we will term the node is a single entity of a linked list which will hold the data for you. Okay, now for example this is a node basically. Let's say we create multiple instances. Okay, so now we have another one, and so these are the 4 nodes. Okay, so these nodes are connected. These are nodes connected basically. We will explain how these are nodes connected. They are connected in a linear fashion. So each node, so this is known as, so individual, so this one is known as node basically. Okay, and these, and also the first node, so the first node is called head basically. Okay, and these nodes are connected, and generally like terminology terms of wise this will go to the last. So last one is known as tail basically. Generally you can call it whatever, but generally in terminology we call it tail. Okay, so now we know how to create individual structures, right? So we can create these structures basically. Now you can connect it also them basically, right? So they can store, like these are nothing but objects, right? And object have references. So this will have a key, we will call it next. Let's say just for the simplification we will call it next, and this will hold actually the key for the next object. And similarly if you move to it, it will hold the key for the next, and last one will hold the null. So if the next is null basically, that means linked list has ended and there is nothing exist. Okay, and in linked list important thing is we always only have access to the single variable that is known as head. So this is the whole list, and we only have reference to this first node that is known as head basically. Okay, so we only have access to this, and with the help of this only we have to iterate through the like whole linked list and do our operations. So let's jump to it, and let's start creating the linked list basically. So yeah, so we'll create the linked list. Yeah, so So important part, as we discussed, first thing is node. So we will define the node. We will simply using JavaScript, we are not using Flow.js and TypeScript. We will cover it, but for now we will using this only. So yeah, so we will have this function node, and this we can say this can have a value, okay, and value can be anything. Let's say we are storing let's start with null only, and we can have null by default, and this will have a next, okay, this can have a next is also null basically. And so now basically you can define some methods basically to it. So yes, I know you are, if I am adding at this, you might have some questions, but just for simplicity let's do this. So basically when you do add, so you can say like this dot, so you can pass, like you can get value here and next reference basically, okay. So you can just pass the value here and next. If it really passed, else they are undefined, no issues for us. So else we can say this dot update value, so it will receive let's say val, and this will do this dot value is equal to val, and let's say it returns true, just that it has updated. Now similarly we can have this dot update next, we can have next ref, and similarly we can have this dot next is equal to next ref, okay. So this is, we define the node basically, okay. So remember we talked about we can have a single node, create multiple instances, that's how we do it. Now the data structure we are using, talk about linked list. So we'll create a linked list basically, it will not receive anything, and this will have what we need, a head basically, okay. If we need a head, and we can have a tail also, though we don't need it, yeah, we can have only head as of now. We can have the length basically, size you can say, we can have the size, and yeah. So now the operation is this dot add, so it will receive a value, and now so remember, now see, important too is like, right, so this we have to, what we understand is just not about learning data structures, think about how to solve the problems also. So here if we see linked list, right, so we have to get a linked list. So we have a linked list, and now okay, we can create an object. Now so of course, like when we create an object, we need an interface to add an element, right? You just want to add element, right? Simple. So that means we need an add method. What do you want to give? You just want to give, okay, like add these values basically, because a single, like you are creating a one instance of linked list, right? Because single linked list, again we can create multiple instances of linked list, but here we are creating a one linked list. So we create an object of linked list, we want to add it, for example, okay, right. So now actually now we so we can export it, and here we can import it, okay. And now question is how we are going to use it. And now let's say right, so what you want to do is, okay, now we are creating an object. So now we created an object, right? Now what we want to do is let's say now we want to add elements, like, right, 10 elements we want to add it, right? Now what we want to do is we want to do it, right, ll object dot add, and we want to add I basically, okay. So what we want to do is we just want to add objects till like 0 to up to 9 basically, okay. So what we want to do, we just need a functionality to add it, right? And after that, let's say we want to print it, print linked list. Okay, we want to print it, as simple as that. Now question is print it like let's say here we want print it to be, just do console basically, print linked list. Okay, you want to simply do print linked list and it will print in console. Okay, print in console basically. Okay, that's the interface we want. Now if we run it, okay, so we getting an error. Yeah, so actually, yeah, so we need actually, yeah, so yeah, so it's saying this is not a function, so at least, yeah, so it's saying this is not a function, right? This doesn't exist, right? So what we want to do first is like we want to add values. Okay, so how about it? So what we will check, if this dot head, if this dot head doesn't exist, right? So first thing what we want to check always is, if we want to start a linked list, right? If this dot head doesn't exist, what we want to do is simple, right? Start from the very basic, like add an element. Okay, what we have access is the head basically. Okay, so now we have the access to head basically, and now we are checking if it head doesn't exist, that means linked list has not been created. This is the first element we are inserting. So we create a new node and we can pass the value. Great, I mean our done, like our thing is done. Else if head is defined already basically, so basically we want to always insert at the end basically. Okay, and currently we are not maintaining any tail or anything basically. That's one thing we can do always. So otherwise, like if we don't have a tail, so let's talk about tail later. Now what you want to do is, so what we'll do is, so we will create another variable temp and it will have the reference to the head now. So just remember, now we have reference to the head. Okay, temp we can change it. So this is take a temp, let's say better naming, node iterator. So this is a iterator, right? Just have the head reference and we will keep iterating it. Okay, now what we will do is, while this dot, so actually like, yeah, sorry, you don't const, you don't need on this. Yeah, so simple, if this dot node iterator is defined. Okay, so what we will do is, if this node iterator is defined, okay, now we will check. So here we can check it if, sorry, not on this, if node iterator dot next, अगर next नहीं है, right? If the next doesn't exist, that means we already at the last node. So we are already at the last node. So what we'll do is node iterator dot next is equal to new node, and we will insert the value. Simple, right? And already it will either way finish it. Okay, node iterator next, and here we will, here what we will do is node iterator is equal to, sorry, what we will do is, I think the better way to more simplification is, okay, so we will move it till, so we know, so for sure head is always defined, that means first time it will define, right? So we will take it reach till the last node basically. So this will finish at the last node, because if we go to the last node, next of last node will be null, so it will finish at null. So what we'll do, simply do it is node iterator is equal to node iterator dot next. Simple, right? So that means it will keep moving it and it will stop at the last node. So we can put it comments also. So that means here we can do it is next is equal to new node, and we can insert the value. So this is, everything is going inside this loop, right? So this function is completed, right? So we have added the value. Okay, yeah, now yes, we have added the value, but actually let's say is it there or not. So how to check it? We can now we implement function our the second function, which was print linked list. Okay, so understand it, right? So how we breaking down into step by step issues, like that understand. Okay, like there are the edge cases and how to break it into it, right? The important insertion in the head is basically of the start basically, and this like finding the last one. Okay, so now what we will do is we have another function print linked list. Here we don't have to do anything, right? So here we have to check it if this dot head is not defined. If head is not defined, you don't want to print the linked list, right? So you can just print linked list is empty. Okay, now else, and you can simply return it from here. So we don't need else in that case. Okay, now if we are coming here, we know it's a head, right? So we just simply want the iterator. So again what we will do is we have iterator. Okay, and iterator will be this dot head. Now what we want to do is just want to print it basically. So node iterator. So what it will do is I will do console dot log dot value, and so I will just move it to the next. So it will finish it when it is undefined, and it will print all the values basically. So yeah, so now if you think will it work, so if we see, okay, head is not defined, it should run print empty. If it is head is defined, we are taking the reference of it, and we are again checking, because a while loop, so we are again checking. So if we are checking is like we're printing its value, and then we are going to the next one. So whenever the next is undefined, we will have it undefined. Yeah, so if you see, we are assigning it iterator, reassigning it. So yeah, so here also, so actually, yeah, so node iterator, yeah, here also there's the problem actually. Yeah, so it's minor issue. Yeah, so similarly we have to use let here, because like we are like changing the variable. So now it should work basically. Now let's try to do it. Yeah, now if you see, we are getting print 0 to 9. Great. Now how we want to check the edge cases? Output should be 0. We will do testing also, but yeah, now let's do it before at the beginning only. So how about it? Empty, right? So we should get an empty message. So we get an empty message, we also getting this also, right? So now we are inserting elements, and it's working, right? Now that's great, right? Now what we let's try to do another thing basically, that how about we do some more test cases, like single element empty, we have done it. Now we do less single one or two or three items, like, right? If one or two it works, then it works more than almost all the. So what we will do is we will do reset. So let's we implement a function reset. So these are not the function, like not exactly function, but we are implementing it to have to do us better testing, and to do basically easy testing. So what we need to do is just this dot head is equal to null. That's it. If it works, so again if you call it after it, so it should again give us the empty message. If it gives yes, perfect, right? Now I will do add only one element. Okay, now if I add only one element, if I again try to print it, it should print me. Great. Now let's add one. Okay, so 0, and next time it comes again 0 and 1. Yeah, so actually now if you see, there is a small concern here in consoling it. So what we do is, so let's do it basically. starting the print of linked list. Similarly, we say ending of linked list. So every time we can understand that it's understand. So if you see starting the, so it's like nothing. Basically, it's again starting, it's again ending basically. So you're understanding basically it's 0 and 1 basically. So it's working perfectly. So far our functions are working perfectly, like add and print and reset basically, right? So these are the like basic function of linked list. I hope you are getting a good understanding like about the basic linked list. Now we will move towards actually a little more complex questions, but let me explain you before that uh, about two types of more linked list. Okay, so that we will cover in the next series. Thank you.